Unfortunately, my marriage did not work out. Because of his alcoholism, my ex-husband was quite volatile and would resort to physical force on occasion. I felt completely defenseless and terrified every time this occurred. For the sake of my children, I decided to face the severe anguish. I was aware that my children would suffer greatly as a result of our divorce. Although it was challenging, I made an effort to remain optimistic and face my children. I began to question my marriage's validity once my son left for college. I came to the realization that I could no longer endure the agony. I didn't want to keep going through this suffering, so I ended the marriage. It was a tough decision, but I felt it was right. When I consider this marriage in hindsight, I see that I was somewhat to blame. Plus, I picked up a ton of knowledge that has made me a better, more self-reliant person overall. After my divorce, I packed up and left my old house. It was inexpensive, but the old apartment I discovered needed some redecorating. I opted to undertake the improvements on my own due to my limited budget. In addition to improving the aesthetics of my new house, it would also boost my self-esteem. I bought some inexpensive paint when rules weren't as stringent as they are now, and a lot of the colors contained too much fumes. I was aware of the potential negative effects on my health, but I just couldn't afford to purchase the more costly paints. Along with the decorating, I also had to deal with the fact that I am still on medication for the discomfort from back surgery I had 3 years ago. My agony has rendered me reliant on painkillers, despite my knowledge that their prolonged usage can harm my health. I'm attempting to discover alternative methods of pain relief, like yoga and massage, but I am aware that it will require patience and time. My life has been an attempt to reflect my faith as a devoted Christian. It is my sincere wish that I will have an impact on my loved ones. My family is my top priority, and I pray that God will keep them safe. I had faith in God's ability to save my marriage, but it didn't work out. When I needed it most, it was difficult to receive assistance. I had hoped for the encouragement and assistance of people close to me, but alas, I found none. I was taken aback and disappointed by this. Since I was planning to move into my new home as soon as possible, I worked late every day while staying at a friend's house. Renovating was a major pain, and it took a lot of time overall. I painstakingly blended many paint colors to create a more unified appearance for the furniture, which had varying textures and hues. On one occasion, I experienced backache following a 7-hour workday. I was really exhausted from taking so many medicines, which were necessary for pain relief. A vacation seemed necessary. I was so exhausted that I didn't even notice how stinky the place was. Consequently, I dozed off while lying on the couch. It took an unknown amount of time, but I could feel my breathing becoming increasingly labored. I struggled to raise myself, but my body just wouldn't budge. I failed to take any precautions despite my knowledge that the air in the room might be toxic. Even when I yelled, nobody paid attention. My spirit seemed to be escaping my body and ascending into the clouds as if I were departing this planet. A shiver ran down my spine as I shifted, and my field of view expanded. As I stood up, I could see all over the room. My body lay still on the floor, and I experienced a fantastic sensation. It was as if I were a bystander. Now that my thoughts were crystal clear, my vision appeared clearer, but I still didn't know what was happening. It was as if I were dreaming, but there was a world of difference between the two. My fear started to build. I was worried that this condition would last forever. My appearance in a dark room came abruptly. I felt an unexplainable terror when I entered the black area. Without knowing the response I may expect, I was afraid to move. Something was creeping up on me, and the sensation only served to heighten my anxiety and panic. The creatures seemed to be aware of my presence since they were moving quicker and faster. For some reason, even in the pitch black, I could make out their features. They resembled humans to a certain extent, but were significantly taller and possessed skin that appeared extremely hard and grayish in color. Amidst this terror, my emotions became abnormally restless. I was unsure of their intentions, but I could sense their malevolence. It was as if they were going to take me into an infinite pit of blackness. A flash of light flashed before my eyes. Despite its intensity, the light's comforting warmth and hopeful aura were palpable. As the light intensified, my vision became increasingly impaired. Subsequently, I was pulled from the shadows. A powerful force was pushing me ahead. Over time, the shadows faded. I felt like I was transported to an entirely new realm. Here, the air was pleasant and tranquil, and everything was sunny and bright. There was no longer any lingering stench in the air. It was clean and pleasant. The room was amazing. I felt out of place because the darkness had suddenly enveloped me. Looking ahead, I could make out a spectacular structure with what seemed like its emblem, a golden ball, perched on it. As soon as the door swung open, a man clad in a lengthy white robe stepped out. He came up to me, a book cradled in his palm. With its thick leather cover inscribed with eerie patterns and symbols, the book gave off an air of antiquity. I felt an enigmatic force radiating from the book as I studied it, and I couldn't help but wonder what it contained. A gentle expression graced the face of the man clad in the white robe. I felt at home the second he tapped me on the shoulder. It was as if I'd been here before. This place welcomed me with open arms. It felt like home. A long-robed figure greeted them with a welcome home. I felt out of place and confused, so I questioned, "Where is this place? Tell me my name. Exactly how did I end up in this situation?" "This is not your first residence here," the man said. "It is your intention to carry out your task here. This is a very special place that transcends anything you have ever known," he shared with me. "A lot of people call this spot heaven." "What is my mission?" I inquired of him. With a smirk on his face, he responded, "You will know when you go back." "Return." I exclaimed, "Am I too old to stay here?" "I can remain," he said. "The choice is yours. This is a fantastic planet, no doubt about it. But staying here will make it impossible for you to go back to your previous life. I am not qualified to decide on your behalf. I will honor your decision regardless of what you choose." "What choice should I make?" I inquired of him. "My advice is that you pay attention to your intuition," he said. "Do you have the strength to part with your loved ones?" "My son is the one and only person who occupies my thoughts whenever I consider my family. My anxiety levels rise whenever my son is in my thoughts. How he will manage when he abandons me is beyond my comprehension. Even he needs help taking care of himself. Therefore, he certainly isn't qualified to be his guardian." I had reservations about my son living with him. Back I went. I was back on the couch when I opened my eyes again, and a strong odor filled the room. I got to my feet, but I stumbled back into the sofa. Even the most basic tasks became a struggle for me since I was so weak. I got to my feet and trudged frantically toward my room's entrance. I forcefully ripped open the door and entered the stairway. My eyes were blurry, and I passed out on the floor. It felt like I had completely lost control of my body and all of my strength. For sure, I needed assistance. With my eyes closed, I fervently prayed for divine intervention. I was in a hospital bed when I regained consciousness. My neighbor had discovered me after I had been asleep for several hours, according to the doctor. Serious repercussions may have ensued had I reached the hospital at a later time. I was quite appreciative to my neighbor when I heard this. As I gained more knowledge, I began to believe that my prayers had been heard. Our apartment was on the older side and had a relatively sparse population. My neighbor realized he had forgotten his wallet at home that morning on the way to work. He had to return home to retrieve his wallet, since he was afraid he couldn't use the metro without it. He heard me tumbling to the floor in the stairway as he was going to open the door. He came racing up the stairs and discovered that I had passed out. Before the ambulance came, he dialed the emergency number. Both my neighbor and God have my eternal gratitude for their assistance and for granting me the gift of life. Because I didn't want my son to be anxious or have any impact on his schoolwork, I refrained from informing him at the time. God was with me the whole time, even though I was a single mother and life was tough. My son is now a father of 2, and although this happened a long time ago, I am relieved. The moment my son became a father was etched in my memory. He had an air of self-assurance and maturity. Both he and I have much to be proud of. Life and the people in it are truly precious to me now. Having faith in God has also helped me persevere through tough times. Being alive fills me with joy and gratitude. God has been with me through all of my trials, albeit they have been numerous. Even if it wasn't the greatest option, I'm pleased with my choices. All of my choices contributed to my development, in my opinion. Currently, I cherish the moments spent with my loved ones. I was saved by God, as unbelievable as it seems. Even though we don't always see answers to our prayers, God is still real. God is acting in accordance with His perfect wisdom.